What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kemple with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I am super excited. We've got a special guest zooming in all the way from Sydney, Australia. Please meet Eran Thomson. He is the writer, creative director, and creator of Song Saga. Did I say all that right? You've got a long list of accomplishments and things that you do.
Yes, thanks very much, Deanna. It's nice to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, Eran, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Sure. So my name's Eran Thomson. I go by the handle of the Joy Pusher.
I missed that part. Sorry.
You missed it. No, it's all right. I go by the handle of the Joy Pusher, and that's a relatively new moniker for myself. I think, one of the things that's always really good for people to do at various stages in their life and in their personal and professional career is to kind of step back and reflect on, the journey they've had and the skills they've acquired and the influence that they've been able to hold and want to continue to manifest in the world. And so for me last year, or about a year ago now, I spent some time just kind of reflecting and trying to plan and figure out what my next moves are and where I want to focus energy and time and spirit. And actually my wife came up with the words, the Joy Pusher. And when I dug deeper into it, what I realized is that throughout my whole entire career, whether that was in advertising or filmmaking, working as a writer, screenwriter, and director, or founding multiple businesses, including an improv comedy school, corporate training business, and even a superannuation business, which in Australia, superannuation is sort of our version of a 401k meets Social Security. It's a retirement product, but I started a business doing that. And now I'm in the board game industry with Song Saga, which you mentioned at the start. So I'm doing a bunch of different things, but the thread that runs through them all is a desire to bring joy to people with all the different ways that they might touch the stuff that I'm involved with, whether that's, in something as arguably as boring as a financial product or a fintech, to help people understand the power of their money and that they can do more with it and that they can influence the way the world works with their money, and that by having more of it, hopefully they'll have more joy. Or, certainly this game, which I hope we'll play later, will bring people joy. And, those are a couple examples, but like I said, when I look back and reflect, that's sort of the through line that felt like it resonated. And now I'm in the process of just really leaping onto that, grabbing it and trying to really live it even bigger than I have in the past. So it's an exciting time.
You've got a lot of vast background of experience in many different areas, which is really cool. And I really connected with, what you're putting out there because of, my things, label free, live your best life, live label free. And you truly are living without any labels, and you're like, there's no bounds, right? So when you come from that space and you're pushing joy onto others, you're allowing them to realize that there are no bounds of what you can do, and you're living and breathing that example, which is incredible. You've also have had some things that hardships you've had to get over and go through. Do you want to talk about being a cancer survivor?
Sure. The thing I would say, by the way, about having multiple facets and multiple interests and multiple skill sets, like whether it's not being able to be put in a box or be labeled, in your parlance. I learned a word a couple of days ago and the word is multi-potentialite, which I love that word. I don't know if you've heard that before, but there's a guy called Perry Noppert. He has a podcast that's all about unearthing the power and the interesting lives of multi-potentialites. And in Australia, we call that a slashy, right? So you're a writer / director / fashion label designer / disco dancer / whatever, right? And so you're a slashy. But multi-potentialites is a really interesting way of thinking about people who probably fall under and resonate with that no label moniker that you're talking about on your show. In terms of my cancer experience, I got diagnosed with chronic myelogenous leukemia as a young adult. And the it's the story of how I got diagnosed is actually kind of funny. I was a mountain bike racer, and I was really good at it. And I was training with the same guys all the time. And normally I was as fast or faster than those people. And I noticed they started beating me all the time in their training rides, and I couldn't figure out what's going on. And they were teasing me like, "Oh, did you drink too much last night?" Or, didn't get enough sleep, whatever. And around the same time that I was noticing that, my boss at work had said to me, "Hey, you look like you're losing a lot of weight. Are you feeling okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You should go see your doctor." And so I think his advice coupled with me not being able to win races meant that I did do that. And I, I went to the doctor and, got blood tests, and he's like, look, you're young, you're fit, you're healthy. Uh, I'm sure everything's fine. Don't worry about it. If you don't hear from me, assume everything's okay. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And that was on a Thursday. And he calls me on Friday and he goes, I need to talk to you about your blood test. Can you come in Monday? I was like, yes, but what do you mean? Like, I got to sit here all week and like freaking out, like on what do I have? What am I going to find out on Monday? So I had this horrible weekend where I'd convinced myself that, that I had gotten AIDS, and I had gotten it from this girl that I hooked up with in Costa Rica. And it was like, we're on the beach and there was no there was no protection involved. And I was like, oh my God, I knew I shouldn't have done that. And now I'm going to die, and like I worked myself up into this crazy, fearful state.
Yeah. For sure.
And then Monday comes around and I stroll into his office, and he's like, okay, thanks for coming in. There's been some anomalies with your blood. I want to do a few more tests and then we can have another chat. And I was like, no, wait, no way, dude. Yeah. I've been sitting around all weekend freaking out. Just tell me what you think it might be. I won't hold you to it. I just need to know like what we're potentially dealing with here. And he goes, well, I think it might be leukemia. And I was like, yes.
Oh yeah, great. No AIDS, but leukemia. That's good. Nice trade-off.
Oh, great. And he's like, okay, I've been a doctor for 25 years. I've never seen anyone react like that. And I was like, well, dude, you had me, you put me in a bad place for the last 48 hours. So anyway, yeah. So that was how I found out. And I was very, very lucky that, to have the recovery that I had. I was one of the very first people in the world to get on a new type of drug at the time it was called STI 571. It didn't even have a brand name. It was in trials. And it's a unique drug and well known as Gleevec now. And what makes Gleevec so unique, not only in the world of hematology and oncology, but in all of medicine, was that it was the very first molecularly targeted drug. So most treatments for most disease kind of go in and try and eradicate everything that could potentially be causing the issue. The biggest and most dangerous example of that is arguably chemotherapy, right? Yeah. They go in, they kill everything and hope that they kill the bad stuff, but they know they're going to kill good stuff too. And so that's at a real macro level, right? So at a micro level, these molecularly targeted therapies can basically say, oh, so the thing that causes CML, chronic myelogenous leukemia, is a thing called the Philadelphia chromosome. I think it's called. It's been so long since I talked about this. But basically what it means is like, if you're looking at DNA, A and B connect this way and C and D connect that way. But for some reason, C wants to go to D, and that's what causes the disease. And this pill basically tells that DNA strand, nuh-uh, go back where you belong. Interesting. So it means that the disease is treated at the very root cause of itself. And there's very few side effects, very few, other things that come up that are problematic. So I was super lucky to be able to get onto that drug. And I was one of the first people in the world to get on it. I was one of the first, or if not the first person in the world to come off it completely and keep my remission or my completely normal response. And I even became the literal poster child for Gleevec for the company Novartis that makes it. So
that's amazing.
Scroll through some old New Yorker magazines, you'll see pictures of me on Bondi Beach with my surfboard in a Novartis ad.
You are incredibly blessed. That is awesome. Not a lot of people can say that, can tell that story. You mind sharing like how long it's been since you've been in remission?
Yeah. I was just doing the math the other day. I think it's been 17 years now that I've been basically completely molecularly free of any detectable disease.
I feel like that's a very fascinating subject to talk about, things like the treating disease at a molecular level, but we're not going to get into that today because we are the joy pusher. We want to keep things on a positive trajectory. But you have also climbed Mount Everest, right?
Yes, I went to Mount Everest. I didn't go to the
Oh,
top.
okay, that's right. That's right. Okay.
I need to say that. I mean, I don't need to say that. I could just let people make that assumption, I suppose. But
You
not,
make it to the
yeah,
top. Yeah, you put the flag up there.
I was there. Yeah. No, and again, part of the reason that I got invited on that trek was because of my cancer experience. So the organization that put that together was called Love, Hope, Strength, and the one of the guys that founded that organization is Mike Peters, who's the lead singer of a rock band called The Alarm. They just put a brand new album out last week, actually. So here's a plug for Mike's album. And what they were trying to do was basically raise money for cancer awareness, specifically bone marrow donations, which is required for to do bone marrow transplants, which up until the time Gleevec became the de facto treatment for my disease, a bone marrow transplant was the only way to theoretically get well. So that was really important to me at the time, and we aligned on many levels. The other co-founder, a guy called James Chippendale, and I hit it off right away. And he was like, "Look, man, you should come on this trek. It's going to be a bunch of rock stars. It's MTV is going to follow us up. They're going to make a documentary. There'll be some cancer survivors on there, and there'll be a bunch of people whose lives were affected by cancer who want to come and just be a part of it and raise money." So it was a tremendous experience. And there's actually a documentary of the whole thing that people can watch. It's online now on YouTube. You can find it. It's called Everest Rocks.
Everest Rocks. I'm gonna make sure I put that in the description of the episode. That's a really
Yeah,
great
great.
story. I actually did. I trained for a triathlon. I did a triathlon in Memphis for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society many years ago. So not to your level, climbing like wherever you got to on Mount Everest, but I did do something similar to give back and support for cancer survivors and for the cause.
That's great.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah, it's really awesome that you did that. And did you say that was a marathon that you ran?
Triathlon.
A triathlon. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's hard. That's a
yeah,
hard thing to do.
swim a mile, bike 26 miles, and ran 6. And I did that in Memphis, and it was like, so when you do a triathlon, well, whenever you do any kind of sport, which includes other people, you're in competition, right? But when you're in the water, you need to really fight for your space in the water, or people are gonna swim over you. So I just remember like getting in that water, and I was like, shit! I'm like, I gotta like punch into the water so people don't swim over me, because I'm like, they're just trying to swim over you. I was like, whoa, that's
Wow.
not happening.
That's crazy. I've never seen that. That would be terrifying. I would really not enjoy that
So
experience
I
personally.
think what you did is terrifying. So okay,
All
I'll
right,
live
good.
vicariously through you. You can live vicariously through me, and we'll just call it a day.
Okay, fair enough. Good deal.
But actually, I just wanted to like talk really quick. You live in Australia now, and you are originally from the U.S.
That's right. Yep.
Jealous. So tell us how you made that move.
Oh, okay. So I've been living in Sydney in what they call the eastern suburbs. The most famous part of Australia is probably Bondi Beach, and I live just around the corner from there. And I moved here about 20 years ago now. And the reason I was living in New York before I moved here, I was in New York City. I was working in advertising, and then September 11th happened. I was in the city when that happened and was very close to where it all went down. And that was sort of the beginning for me of not wanting to get out of the city. In fact, I think most New Yorkers never felt more cohesive or close than they did right after that event. It was kind of a magical time to be there, a sad time, but also very powerful in terms of how a whole city that has a reputation for being gruff and maybe a little bit, angry came
Yeah.
together in a very joyful way. But the economy started to tank shortly after that happened. And in my industry at the time, advertising marketing, those are the first budgets that typically get cut when the economy goes down. And so because of that, I sort of saw the writing on the wall that there wasn't going to be a lot of room for creativity in that industry until the economy rebounded. So, and also at that time, I was still dealing with my own cancer diagnosis. And so there were sort of two things that happened at once. One was the economy is going down. The work isn't going to be as good as I want it to be, being a creative person. And I don't know what my own future looks like if I'm going to have one, right, at this
Right.
stage. So for me, it was very much like, if I'm going down, I want to see the world first. So I convinced my girlfriend at the time to quit her job, and we went on what I think was, it ended up being about a 7-month world tour.
Holy
And
cow.
yeah, we went everywhere. And one of the last stops was Sydney. And we came here, and the idea was to stay for 3 months, or and that was the longest visa you could get, was 3-month visa. And so we're here for 3 months, and everyone in New York was like, "Don't come back. It's terrible." Everyone was leaving New York because they couldn't get jobs. So everything I had prophesied had come to fruition. And I was like, okay, well, New York doesn't sound awesome right now. And everyone in Australia was like, "Oh, you'll never be able to get a job. You'll be too expensive. You're too much of a flight risk." There's a long history of primarily British people that have come over to Australia to bring, they come in with real expertise that is valued here, but what they're really doing is just coming for a working holiday. So companies will spend 5,000-10,000 bucks to get them here, get their work visas sorted, and then at
They're
the end
out.
of summer, they all go back to London. It's like, so that was kind of the vibe that people were telling me that I should expect. And I was, again, super fortunate. I walked into an agency on a Thursday, got a job offer on Friday, started working on a Monday, and ended up getting my visa sorted out, and we were able to stay. So it felt like it was meant to be. And, there was also a big part of what I consider the impact influence of living in a very healthy beach like setting
Sure.
versus the heart of Manhattan when you're trying to get healthy. Right. And, I was very much still fighting for my life to try and beat this cancer diagnosis, and being able to go sit on the beach and look at the ocean and have a swim was, beats riding the subway any day. So, so I
Polar
stayed.
opposites. I mean, look, I mean that's just awesome. I mean, looking now, you look fantastic. You look healthy, and you are definitely like you can feel the joy coming off of you.
Oh, thank you so
Hey, look,
much. Yeah.
there's that smile. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm super lucky. It's super thrilling, to get to have this experience, and it's all, talking about it is often a good reminder to reflect and appreciate too, because
Yeah.
sometimes you just get stuck in your routine, and, you get used to the new normal, and you forget your own journey, your own path, and the things that you've picked up
This is
along
very
the
true.
way.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
very true, and it's humbling when you kind of like reflect, and it's like, wow, I did all that, because you can't believe that you came through it, But we're gonna start shifting gears a little bit,
Okay.
because we you did show the game, so I
Hmm.
want to actually ask a question about Song Saga, and then we're gonna play it before we finish things up today. How
Fantastic.
hard is it to invent a game and get it to market? Because I feel like that's fascinating. I could never think of creating a game and actually bringing it to market.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is my whole career has been primarily based in service-based industries, right?
Okay.
Specifically in the context of advertising and marketing, we're in a service business, but we're selling products, right? And so I think I naively assumed that because I knew how to market products, that I would be able to easily kind of do that for myself. And so the the actual process to answer the first part of your question is coming up with the idea for the game for me was it didn't feel that challenging. I think once I got really clear on the idea and the play mechanics, going from what was in my head or on a few sheets of paper to a prototype that looked pretty much like this, took about a month.
Okay.
Um, but then it took me a year to figure out the whole industry and that world, and understand, like, was it actually a viable idea?
Sure.
Would people be interested in this sort of game? Because it is novel, right? There's it's the category of adult party games, tabletop party games, is huge,
Yes.
and probably the most popular game that most people have heard of is Cards Against Humanity, which
Yep.
is like everywhere. And this is very similar to Cards Against Humanity in that it's a card-based game, and it's designed to spark conversations, get you thinking creatively, and recalling the memories of the music and moments that have meaning to you. But it also is played normally in conjunction with your favorite music player. So like you have Spotify open, or Apple Music, or Amazon Music, whatever you use. And And that's what makes it really novel and interesting. So I had to kind of figure out, like, is it going to be too weird for people to get?
I think,
And
but because it's based on music, I think music most people really connect to that. So I think it's a fantastic idea. We're gonna play before we like say goodbye. But yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
oh no, it's all right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. Look, it's anyway, to make a long answer short, coming up with the idea for the game and getting it to a place where I could show it to people to see if how they would respond to it was pretty easy. Understanding how that world works in the market and the business, and then getting it out now, talking to people like you about it, and trying to just help people discover it. That's the long slog, right? The hope, and we're starting to see this now, is that, like anything that's fun and that delivers an authentic experience, people talk about it, right? And so, I saw it with Cards Against Humanity. Like, I don't know about you, but the first time anybody showed me that, the next day I was like, I'm getting that,
Right. Yeah.
And so my hope is that as people start to play Song Saga and see what it does, that it can, spark an avalanche of intrigue and interest
And joy.
and joy. Yeah. Yeah. It's my favorite thing about the game. Like, yes, actually, yeah, my favorite thing about the game is watching how it surfaces stories and songs that people have either completely forgotten
Yeah.
or that they have never heard. And in our very first playtest group, it was a group of guys who have known each other for 20 years. They played this game, and one of my favorite quotes from the night was, "Dude, I've known you for 20 years and I never knew this about you. How could I not know this?"
Yeah.
Right. And I was
Cool.
like, wow, that's cool. And if you think about like how we spend our evenings so many nights, like hanging around with friends and kind of chin wagging about, politicians we hate, and, things that are not right, and drinking wine and kind of like meaningless chit chat. And then to have a game like this that suddenly makes every piece of the conversation authentic
Yeah.
and has a great soundtrack, that's really cool.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love
It's
it.
really neat.
I love it. Okay, really quick before we play the game and we wrap things up, I want to just really kind of bring up, your wife has a very cool website. Could you just like really like briefly tell the audience a little about that? Because I checked it out, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm digging this. I'm gonna be going back. And then you can plug everything else. Then we're gonna play the
uh, yeah. So okay. Yeah. So my wife has a funny way of expressing things and mixing words up, and making up words, and just, I think, we've chuckled about it together for so long. And then finally one day I was like, I have to like capture these expressions, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but I just have to start writing them down because they're just too funny. And and then eventually, as sort of like a joke, I put together a blog of like, 10 or 15 of the funniest ones that I'd written down. And then I kind of wrote my own little comment on her expression or set of words that she said. And then I just one day randomly sent her a link to it, like, hey, check this out. And she lost her mind, and
That's cool.
immediately like she sent it to her mom and a few other people. And like, it's not something that I generally actively promote, but it has found its own kind of little bit of virality. And I think it just resonates because we all catch ourselves saying things or misspeaking, or hearing ourselves or someone say something and we know they've misspoken, but
Yeah.
we also know what they meant. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't need to be called out, but when it is called out, it can be funny. And so I'm just celebrating her special gift with
I
the
love
blog.
it.
And on social media, it's Tish, my wife says, at Tish, my wife says. So Tish is shit backwards. So it's her name is not Tish. I'm not going to tell
Oh,
you her
okay.
name,
Oh,
but
so you made that up.
yeah, that's right.
That's great.
So
Okay.
because I wasn't sure like if it was going to have any legs, but then there are blogs, or like I think
Sure.
stuff my dad says was trending for a while on Twitter, and that gave me the kind of encouragement to just put it out there and see what happens. So the blog is diesexlick.com, but if you go to tishmywifesays.com or Tish my wife says on Twitter, Instagram, all that, you'll see some stuff there.
And why don't you really quick plug all the rest of your links, and then we're gonna play that game.
Plug the rest of my links. Well, I mean, dissectslick.com. That's the funny one that we were just talking about. My personal website is eranthomson.com. That's EranThomson. There's no P. I'm a dry Thompson. And then the one I'd probably like people to check out the most is this one, and that's song-saga.com. So yeah.
And you also have a podcast. Do you want to like plug that really quick?
Oh yeah, sure. So the podcast that I have right now is called One Word Suggestion. And One Word Suggestion, if you've ever been to an improv show, or even if you haven't ever seen an improv show, I can tell you that every single improv show, pretty much everywhere in the world, starts with the performers on stage asking the audience for a one-word suggestion. You're nodding your head. I'm guessing you've seen lots of improv, considering
I have. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah.
So I use one word suggestions from listeners as sort of a leaping off point to talk about and explore how developing an improvisational mindset can help you do better and enjoy more of your life and work. And it's a really short podcast. Each episode is only 3 minutes, so it's really digestible. And I use that as it's a great writing experience for me to kind of write that and respond to people's words and try and reframe weird words in that context. But also it's a promotional tool for our corporate training business, which is called PowerProv, which is basically helping business teams use the fundamentals of improvisation to learn how to communicate, collaborate, and improve camaraderie amongst the team.
Improvisation is a really important skill to have. I mean, and you do have to work, like it's like a muscle. You do have to work at it to make it better and better. But with that being said, well, let's play this game.
Okay. So we'll play like a really basic version of it. I mean, obviously there's more to it than just these cards, but
sure.
There's you'll get a kick out of this. It doesn't matter on the podcast, but one of my favorite cards in the box is this one. This is the Pinky Promise card, and it's the Pinky Promise NDA. You won't be able to read it, but basically it says what happens on tour stays on tour.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Yeah.
Of course, we're blasting this out into the world, so doesn't mean much. Also, if anyone's interested, in the box, I also include the recipe for the perfect margarita. And, if you want to know why and how I know this is the recipe for the perfect margarita, I'll send you a link and you can include that in the show notes.
Okay, definitely send that to me.
There's a story there, but it's too long for the time.
It sounds like it would be a good story. Okay, maybe we'll have like a sequel to this episode.
Okay. All right. So I pulled 5 random green cards, and the green cards we call them kind of like memory sparkers. And these cards are designed to spark a memory of a moment and music that has meaning to you. There's no wrong answer, and the cards don't have to be interpreted literally. You can just use them as a leaping off point to see where it takes you. So the first one I pulled is someone who influenced you.
What's the song? Okay. And what's the story?
What's the story? The next one is bed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think you might like this one.
Dirty nightclub. Can it be a strip club?
Sure can. Dirty nightclub. Here's another one.
Oh my God.
4th card, teen angst.
Teen angst. Okay.
Yep. And last one I pulled today, your ex.
My ex. Oh God.
So someone who influenced you, bed, a dirty nightclub, teen angst, or your ex.
Oh boy. So I think the memories are starting to be triggered, but I'm gonna just stick with something more current and more positive. Someone who influenced me. So I actually am going to refer to my best girlfriend. Her name is Julie. We went and what's the next step? Am I supposed to tell a story, or am I supposed to say the song?
Oh, good question. So when people are playing in person, sometimes people will play the song as sort of like a soundtrack to their story. Okay. Other times they might play the song first and then tell the story, or they will tell the story and the song might be played after as sort of a punchline. Now, I would just caution you with music licensing on podcasts that you probably don't want to play it or at
Oh,
least
okay.
include it
All
in your
right.
final recording, but we can definitely listen to it and then just edit that bit out if you want. Because sometimes listening to it actually even brings the story even more to the forefront of your
Okay.
memory. It's your birthday.
Okay. So enough of that.
Nice one. So we'll just do a little dance without the music. Everyone will be like, "What are they dancing to?" It's your birthday.
So,
nice one. Okay. So Julie.
So my best friend Julie, she's actually a very positive influence in my life. I can honestly say since I've known her, I've become a better person. She is able to communicate a lot better than I do. I'm a little bit more the red hair. If it doesn't tell you much, if it doesn't tell you anything, I'm a little bit of a hothead. So she's like definitely helped me like calm things, like calm myself, become more zen over the years. But I we went to New York when I was trying to be a fashion designer, and I had my label, and I went to a trade show out there, and I had hired some people in Soho, and she has a timeshare there, so we went together, we traveled there together, and our last nights we like went out, and mind you, my best friend does not drink, she does not swear, I drink, I swear. We go to this like down the street from where we were staying. We went to this like bar. I think it was like an Irish pub, but they had karaoke there. So we're there, it's just me and her, and she's very friendly, outgoing, just like me. We're very social. And so we're talking to everybody there. We got guys from California, they're totally drunk. We got these guys over here, like meeting people from all over the country, right?
Yep.
So they're all like, they're buying me shots. She's like, here, queen, take my shot, because we call each other queen. And I'm like, I'm getting pretty lit up at this point. So
Yep.
they're like, oh, you need to do a song. I'm like, all right, what song am I gonna do? I picked In the Club by 50
In the Club, 50 Cent, right?
I did not realize how fast that those motherfuckers, like they rapped, because I was like,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
so hard. And I'm wearing like, okay, now here I'm like fairly lean. I'm wearing this black tight dress and heels, and I'm like getting down. Oh, so there is my story for your
So,
song.
yeah. So it's 50 Cent. I think that's 50 Cent, right? In the Club.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
50 Cent in the club and hanging out with Julie, drinking all her shots,
Yes.
plus your own shots,
Yes.
doing karaoke, not fast enough. and not caring at all. I love
Nope,
that.
I did not give a yes.
Funny.
I did
Okay,
not
so
give a fuck.
so you did someone who influenced you. I'm gonna go. Actually, you're gonna laugh. But I'm gonna go your ex.
Okay. All right.
And funnily enough, sticking with the theme, my ex's name was also Julie.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't the same Julie based on how you've described your Julie.
Know.
But you never know. The world is small.
This is true. We are all connected.
That's right. But Julie is actually, to tie it all together, she's the woman that I moved to Australia with. We're not together anymore, but she's a wonderful, wonderful human being. And we shared, a great part of our lives together. And obviously, because we were together for as long as we were, we had a lot of things in common. But one of the things that we did not have in common was a love and appreciation of a musician named Jeff Buckley,
Okay.
who we used to listen to all the time. And the song that always reminds me of her and the time when we started not getting along was, I think it's called Hallelujah, which is just like the saddest.
Oh no.
I feel like they play it at funerals, like,
oh gosh. No, let's not play it now.
Yeah, we won't play it now. But Jeff Buckley, Hallelujah. And the story, I guess the story there is the story, without going into too much detail, it was the beginning of the end of that relationship. Yeah. And then figuring out like how we were going to move forward together, in this strange land where we, and what that meant for us. And the funny, I think the beginning of the end, which is actually kind of a funny story now, was we had decided or we had been in Australia for a year. So, and bringing it kind of home to where we actually started the show. And so we got to Australia. We had been here a year. And at the end, and we had said, we'll stay for a year. And at the end of that year, we were kind of like sitting down and going, all right, so it's getting to be about a year. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay for another year, or do you want to go back to New York? And she was like, I want to go back to New York. And I was like, I want to stay.
Yeah.
And so that was like, problem. And then we had like a going away party. I was, I was in love. I wanted to be a good partner. I wanted the relationship to continue. So I was like, all right, if you want to go back to New York and you feel that strongly about it, we've had a good time here. Let's go back. So we sold all our stuff. We had a going away party, it was quit our jobs. It was all like, see ya, bye Australia. Yeah. And like, I don't know how close it was anymore. I can't remember to when we were actually supposed to get on a plane and leave. But one day we're sitting on the beach and it's just like a beautiful day at the beach. And she looks at me and she says, you know what? I don't know if I can leave this. And I was like, well, we already sold the toaster.
Oh, jeez.
Like, oh,
no. Whole
no.
exercise. Oh, God.
Yeah, I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I was just super happy that we got to stay, but like, man, now I have to buy a new couch. Damn it.
Jeez, not in their furniture. So funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
anyway.
Great. And now look where you are. You're still there and you're living a very healthy, joyful life. And you've got this incredible game. But Eran, thank you so much for being a guest on Label Free Podcast. Is there any final words you'd like to leave with the audience?
No final words. Just thank you to you for having me on and for playing Song Saga with me. And if anyone listening thinks this game sounds like fun, go to song-saga.com and get yourself a copy right now.
Awesome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Kempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.